gonna be some noises. The neighbor, I almost said mayor, the neighbor is mowing the front yard, so I decided to come out back. And of course we got dumpster trucks and lovely birds. And got an update on the truck, believe it or not. There's the live feed. Got some people in here, finally. I'm going to give a little tip for you smaller YouTube channels. I know that my channel isn't that great, but if you go live and you've only got like 4 or 5 or 6 or you're less than 1,000 subscribers, but you go live with StreamYard or something, don't sit there and obsess over that little number in the left-hand corner. Because if you sit there like, oh, I have 9 people in here. Oh, now there's 8. I wonder who left. You know, you can't do that. You'll make yourself crazy. You know, you could have been just a random, thing on the homepage or something. So, but we're going to give a truck update as soon as we get some people in here, and we're going to talk about a couple of things that have been bothering me here lately. Seeing what I see and talking to various people in the industry. So we'll get some people in here, and then we're Dave, and we'll talk about things. We got our coffee, we got our Like Trucking mug right there. And Jeff spares no expense. It's a true Yeti, and we're on our 24-hour fast, by the way. It's Friday, and we, as Little Viking Coach It, Solidarity Fast, in memory of country time. And I go from Thursday night to Friday night. I ate dinner about 7 o'clock last night. And I had pancakes. What? No, I had keto made pancakes. That's my wife. She bought this mix that said keto. They're pretty good, but they're kind of a pain in the butt for her to make, so I feel bad when she makes them for me because they are kind of a hassle. But that and eggs and sausage, man, that's ketos as you can get. So and by the way, I did a bunch of yard work yesterday. I know this isn't interesting, but I did a bunch of yard work, and I'm old and I hurt everywhere because of it. So, but we had 2 trailer fulls of brush that I was able to take to the yard waste recycling center. I think I said that right. So let's do some shout outs and start this party. We got Alexander Rocker, Don Schonger over Jackson, Minnesota, other trucker James Best, Jesse Bennett, Charles, GNC Family Trucking, TJ Jones, what's up? Thorn Thunder Trucking, good morning, good morning. Nothing Winnie, Jeremy Rice, Bob G, Jay Fisher, Scott SRO Logistics, the Great Freight Sage Logic, who I just got off the phone with, and John Reynoldson, good morning. Doug Thompson. Why are you in Wyoming, Dave? You're all over the place. I don't know what's going on with you guys. Some driving their truck yesterday on 44 eastbound. Nittany Lion, that's possible because my truck was being moved. And we'll get into that. Eddie Drotar, good morning. Got family trying to guilt trip me into getting vaccinated. They can't respect me wanting to err on the side of caution. My body, my choice, right? That's all I'm going to say about that. Another tip, more views come after a video is posted. You turn people off, not saying anything while waiting for people to show up. Yes, James Best. I noticed I started talking right away. If you watch the replay, I'm not just like, okay, nobody's in here yet. You got to start talking right away. So, was that scary? So you gotta be confident. You gotta start talking right away. Like, all right, I'm here. Make your announcement, right? Now, usually don't start into your subject right away, but wait for people to get in here. Do the small chit chat. I notice the big live feed people. That's what they do. So, Anyways, um, so the truck. So yesterday I got a very confusing phone call. I noticed that my truck had been moved. I got an alert of unassigned drive time, which you like trucking guys. I get those alerts, and um, I'm like, huh. And then I got a fault for the fuel, which you're gonna get that fault if you have a PACCAR engine and you get your fuel filters changed. If you do them yourself, or if you have it done that's not a PACCAR dealer, the mill light will come on, and it will tell you fuel rail pressure or whatever, but it'll go away after after a few cycles, usually a day and a half. Unless you're at a PACCAR, then they will turn it off. But they start up the truck, and obviously it came on, so all of a sudden I got a fault code, like, huh. And so yesterday I was doing a bunch of stuff. Me and the boy were doing a bunch of yard work yesterday, and on the way home I get this phone call from Kenworth telling me, which brand of diff did you want? I'm like, I thought we already settled this. Why are you calling me? And it turns out that it was not a new, but a different, what do they call the person at the counter at the, in a mechanic shop. It was a new, so he was like trying to get these trucks out the door, and he didn't realize I was waiting for a new diff, not wanting a reman. Because everybody across the board was telling me not to get a reman on the rear differential. So it's like, well, it's only $100 more, get a new one. They said, well, it won't be here till the 18th. I'm like, okay, we'll make that work. Well, once I had to re-explain all that to this guy, he says, well, let me call you back. So he calls me back about 10 minutes later. He says, hey, if you want a new one, it's not going to be here till the 12th of June. And I'm like, I guess I'm getting a reman, because I refuse to sit for another month. I'm just not, because I've got stuff coming up in June and July that I have to tend to, that's going to keep me home. And the idea was I was going to run as much as I could between April 30th and middle of June, so I can prepare for what I'm going to have to deal with in July. Service manager, thank you, Red Pepper. And so he said, well, there's a 2-year warranty, da 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 da. I'm like, okay. So we're getting a reman. So we hopefully the truck will be done this weekend. It has been parked outside. It's not in a bay anymore, so it might be done now. But I was gonna call them around lunchtime to see, what the status is, and the bill's not going to be as high as I thought it was going to be, so that's good news. And should be ready to roll when I need to go back out on Tuesday, because Monday I have something to, because when you're home and you're not expecting to leave for a while, like I didn't think I was going to leave before the 18th, or the truck was going to be done for the 18th. I had planned to do some things to help the family out, and of course now I've made commitments, and so we probably won't leave out till Tuesday anyways. So Charles Brandt, thank you for the $3.99. I appreciate that. You always put that lovely animated sticker of a small creature with a big cup of coffee. So cheers to you, Charles. Cheers to you. So we get some more people in here. Awesome. Red Pepper, Charles Brandt. Ivan Drago, do you hate it when your trailer tandems are slid all the way back when you're in a tight city? Yes, Ivan, I've dealt with that. I used to do a lot of loads for Rick at Benkaiser when they were Rick at Benkaiser in Springfield. Now it's just wrenches, and they don't do that side of it. And if you had a multiple stop load, there's no telling where all the weight was put in the trailer. And there were times when I had the tandems either all the way back or almost all the way back, just to make it legal, just to make it, not 38,000 on the tail. So, and that got me in. My only overweight ticket was because of a situation like that. And Dio, what's up? Um, and so we got Daniel Adami as well. So yes, that sucks. You got to swing wide, right? So Grafton's in the house. I don't know. My truck's never been in a dealership. Charles Brandt, love those stickers. I got a reman from Truck Pro. I don't think you have too much to worry about, says Eddie. Well, thank you. I've been dealing with my truck all week, getting title transferred over to my name and getting apportion plates today. Should be the last day I deal with the truck. Good deal. Oh yeah, you weren't going to announce where you were going, Daniel. Or you want to announce it now, or are you going to wait till Pale Rider Speed, or what? Hopefully it's a much more secure company than you just left. So, but good morning, John. What's up? So that's the deal. It was either put a reman in or wait another full month for the truck. And that's the level of crazy that we're getting with these parts. So if you need a major truck repair, you need to prepare for downtime as well, because Pale Rider sat a whole week over a hose. So just know that you're going to have some, you might get lucky, but just know that the possibility of downtime is the chances are increased. So what was the other thing I was going to talk about? Oh, I know. The challenges of bringing on drivers to your authority or hiring company drivers. Let's talk about that for a minute. James Best, Jeffrey Light, Scott SRO Logistics, Advanced. I know you guys all watch me, and I want to ask you guys a question. What are the what are the big challenges that you guys are facing in acquiring independent contractors or drivers? And Christian Trucker, you're in this group too, because you hire company guys. What are the challenges that you face when bringing on drivers? Lay it all out here, and we'll have a discussion about it. Of course, Jeff doesn't have to tell me what the challenges he's faced, because I see them, but I want to see what everybody else says. The great state of Texas is making me get plates when I told them I don't need them, but I guess it's a lot better to have my own. That's interesting. You have to register your truck, but you don't have to put an apportion plate on it, Daniel. But hey, if you get your own apportion plate, then that gives you more power to move that truck wherever you want. So that's one more step to your own authority, if that's your goal, if that's your end game. Dave says people with clean records. That's one. I'm going to put my theories out here. It's something that maybe people don't think about, but we'll see if anybody else answers here. DMR records, job hopping history. People that have trailers right now, driving record is a hurdle as well, but the challenges come after you bring them on. That alludes to what I'm going to get at. Especially if you're a company that's set up like trucking, right? So, you like that pose? I should make that the thumbnail. Me and my death metal hat is, and my ghostly figures that seems to bother a lot of people. So lack of motivation to learn more as the progress with you. That's definitely one. So yesterday there was no, day before yesterday actually. You know, I've been doing this our insurance company for like trucking. They have these you know, they talk about safety stuff. You know, it's been this video seminar, but they had this motivational speaker on as well, and he brought up a point about mindset, and you have to forgive yourself. One of the things he said that stuck out with me, because it's something I've said, is that you have to forgive yourself if you fail. Because if anybody watches Shark Tank, you'll see that the more successful Shark Tank people, you know, the people coming in asking for deals, they have hurdle after hurdle after hurdle, and this might be the third or fourth time that they've tried to create a product that people want, you know. And how do you find out what people want? Well, you have to fail at each thing. So for some reason in our YouTube Truckerverse, we tend to judge people for their failures, even if they just change, or even if like if I was to leave trucking today, like if I started my brick and mortar business that I want to do, did I fail at trucking? Did I fail at being an owner operator? How do you judge that? Simply because someone leaves doesn't mean they're a failure. If someone was an owner operator for 20 years and decides to hang it up because he's just not into it anymore, that's not a failure. It's a change. And so I find that if a person judges someone harshly about failing at something, then if they fail themselves, they judge themselves harshly as well. And that's a hard pill to swallow. You know? And I have a friend of mine that I was at Schneider with, that at the end of his 1-year lease, he just stopped. He went home. He wanted to get out of the truck. He completed his lease. That was kind of the final, you know, the finale of, this is it. I've done everything in trucking that I wanted to do. I didn't see him as a failure at all. So you have to forgive yourself, and that's one of the things that this Larry Winget guy said. You have to forgive yourself if you fall down. You know, do you see a child, like when they fall, when they're learning to walk? Do you see them beat themselves up? Do you see them hit their head on the floor and go, "Oh, I'm dumb"? You know, no. They just get right back up and they go. It's in our nature to just get up and go. You know, it's not until we're told these messages and this ideology that we fail to get back up again. That's where true failure lies, is when you fail to take action or reaction for when you do stumble, when you do fall. And that's something that a lot of us struggle with. Anger is a motivator. James Best, I wrote a song, and we made a shirt off this line. When anger becomes your fuel, I will spark the fire. And so, you know, that's how change is made. But there's healthy anger and there's not healthy anger. Okay? Healthy anger is when you take that emotion and use it to your advantage, to learn from it, to experience it. But if you use that anger to take it out on somebody else, or you self-destruct, if a person self-destructs, like, you know what, I'm just going to nuke everything. I'm going to nuke my channel. I'm going to nuke my trucking business. I'm going to nuke my family. I'm going to clean the whole slate. You know, that anger didn't do you any good. It's anger is like any other emotion. It has to be put in the right places, or it becomes toxic. Let's read some comments so I don't pull a big rig CEO. It'd be 20 minutes behind. Yeah, my own authority is my end game, but I still need to get my own trailer first, and then I'll go for my own authority. Hopefully I can do that in the next 2 years. Finding people that want to be paid in Doge. LOL. Everybody fails. Your job is to figure out what to learn from that and apply it to your future decisions. That's where the positive anger comes in. There's such a thing as positive anger. Listen to a Hatebreed song, and you can hear positive anger. Larry Winga books are awesome. Great Freight Sage Logic, The Price of Hate. So, but back to my original question, the challenges of being a carrier and hiring either company drivers or contractors is, number one, obviously the vehicle record, okay? Or the driving record. You know, we all make mistakes, but we all also have bad habits, okay? Did your habit create that mistake that got you a ticket, or was it just a one-time fluke because you're at the wrong place at the wrong time in front of the wrong cop? So, you know, it's and so that's where the data from these ELDs come in. They kind of teach you the habits, the habituals, the things that happen all the time, and so you learn a lot about your drivers. You know, when I was in CDL school and we took a field trip to Prime, they showed us just from the Qualcomm information, not a camera, but the Qualcomm information of when they know that drivers have bad habits of either aggressive driving or non-aggressive driving, and they had a printout showing the two differences. It was fascinating, just how much. And those of you at Schneider know, if you have a collision mitigation system on your truck, you know. If you have lane departure systems on your truck, you know how sensitive all that material is. And a company will grade you on that. You know, so if you're a dispatched company and their ELD is going off all the time, they're gonna tighten the reins a little bit on you. Okay, so because they know the challenges of finding drivers with good habits. That is your biggest thing. So, and we're not even getting close to the point I'm trying to make. You're like, oh, Steve, we're gonna be here an hour, you know. But here's you know, but we're gonna get to that. So, as a company driver, that's your first thing. Is what's their driving record? What's their habits like? And that's why Schneider has you go and do your drive around the block test, whether you're a company or owner operator. And I think they do the company. I could be wrong, but at least the owner operators, they do. Whether you have an SFI truck or not, they want to see if you have any bad habits. And so they grade you based off of that. And then, you know, meanwhile, they're taking notes. How clean is the truck? Is there any foam mounts anywhere? Are they curbing every curb, you know, damaging our trailers, you know, that kind of thing. And that plays a big part in that. You know, company drivers, same thing. You know, I had to take a driving test when I was a company driver. I had to take a driving test for Schneider. Now, Jeff didn't do a driving test, but he already knew that I could drive. And then with the cameras, he can really see how people drive now in our company. So that's one of the first hurdles. The second hurdle has to do with owner operators. Do you have your ducks in a row? Do you have your affairs in order? You're running a business. Are you a businessman or a trucker paying for a job? It's tough to find people that have their ducks in a row in one form or another. You might have a guy that's a really good businessman, but he's got too much debt. You might have a guy that has an excellent work ethic, but he has no money management skills. You might find a guy that has all of his act together, but doesn't work, very hard. And so, all these, and can you profit off that guy based off the expenses that you charge that person? Some companies charge you for everything, like Landstar, and then you have other companies like us that only charge you for the services that you use, such as insurance and stuff like that. And then you have some carriers that you make a straight 80 and they only charge you for fuel. So, but then, minimums have to be placed, or, and with a company like ours, ours being like trucking, you have to find the fine line of getting people that are willing to do what you need them to do without micromanaging. Because why do people leave Schneider? Because they don't want to be micromanaged. But are you getting a person that micromanages themselves? And that's the true key. So it goes to what the biggest challenge in any capacity, in any model, of finding the right either contractor or company driver, and that is mindset. Do you hop jobs all the time? If you've been driving for 5 years and you've been at 8 different companies, there might be a problem there. You can only grow a company out of consistency. Let me say that again. You can only grow a company, regardless of the industry, out of consistency. That's it. You have to look at the long term. And if you have a driver that switched jobs like 8 times in the last 5 years, there's no consistency there. You know how many people I talk to that switch jobs all the time or switch companies all the time that can't seem to get their affairs in order? And I tell them, you need consistency. You need to stay somewhere for a couple of years, as long as you're making money, and not do the grass is greener thing. And I'll get to the comments here because James Best just made a good comment. So mindset is a big part of it. Is it 9 o'clock? Yeah, it's 9 o'clock. My YouTube notifications go nuts at 9 o'clock. I subscribe to too many channels. That's part of it. That's part of my problem. I have a problem. I have a lot of problems, but that's one of them. But anyways, mindset. Grass is the grass greener. And the reality is, if a company gives you a platform, again, company or owner op, if a company gives you a good platform to make money, and they give you enough freedom to make good decisions while correcting you if you make bad decisions, or at least trying to help you, and you're paid on time, there's no shenanigans going on with your money, then it's worth it to stick it out if that platform is making you money. Okay, so as a authority owner or a company owner, finding people that have that right mindset, whether it's I'm not into the grass is greener crowd, or I'm not, I don't need, because look, here's the deal. On the surface, if you have a contractor that has all the toys, right? They got the new boat, and they got the new car, and they got the new RV, or they got the new trailer, they got the new, whatever. The new camper, they go on vacations all the time, but and their debt ratio is really high. Yeah, that might work well for you as the contract, as the authority owner, because that person has to run. Okay, but realize that that person might be one breakdown away from losing all of that, and that does you no good. So you have to sit there and say, well, I want a person that has to run and make $30,000 a month regardless of what the market conditions are, because I benefit off that. But if there's no longevity to that, what good does that do you? Because why? Because you lose consistency. Turnover is one of the biggest elements, the biggest challenges that the trucking industry has. And it's hard to find a company that nurtures longevity, that nurtures driver retention, and that should be huge. That should be the number one priority. What can I do to create a platform that people want to stay at? And so when you have a company like ours that people use us as a stepping stone to get your own authority, then that becomes an element as well, because the smart ones, the ones that desire more, are going to be here a short period of time and use this as a stepping stone. So you have to have something in your business plan to account for that. And so you've got that end of the spectrum as well. And what it comes down to is the mindset of the driver, the mindset of the business owner, the mindset of that company driver. I know guys that, anybody remember, he still does YouTube, Trucker Who, I think he's Dump Truck Who now. He was Trucker Bob or Dump Truck Bob. He's changed his name several times, but he did a full year at Millis. And he was a company driver, but he treated that truck like an owner-operator. Anybody remember Dooner off of Pale Rider's channel? He's another guy that treats his trucks like he's an owner-operator. I ran into him in Joplin one time. He was buying a chrome custom piece for his truck that he did not own. And now he's an owner-operator. So congrats, Dooner, if you're watching this. And you have to know the difference between being a mentor and micromanaging. And I'm going to get the DIY's comment here in a second as well. And that, again, that goes to mindset. I had a FedEx manager tell me that he would rather have, Coca-Cola, he would rather have a new guy out of CDL school with the right mindset versus an experienced driver, because he can kind of mold them into how he wanted them. So the other issue that you might run into, and this is why the mega carriers love new CDL school guys to sell a truck to, because they can mold them and they don't have any expectations other than money, right? And so expectations sometimes can run high the more you have your act together. And then eventually those people go on to get their own authority, or they go in a different direction with something else. And so there's a lot of elements, a lot of challenges. And so when in the argument was put up in one of Hensley's feeds that I was discussing with Hensley, well, mainly James Best and Spectre, on bringing on drivers, these are the things I think about, that if I was to ever get my authority, would I bring on other contractors or would I try a different route? Because of the challenges that are faced of bringing on contractors. Look at the stuff that Spectre's dealt with the alcohol stuff, with his contractors that are not even in the industry anymore. Because you can't babysit all the time, and so people can put up a really good front. People can really kind of like, so a 10-15 minute interview over the phone, sometimes doesn't cut it too, and you really have to get to know somebody. And even then, when you do get to know somebody, then something happened in their personal life that takes them out, or makes them change, or maybe there's a discussion that upsets somebody, and then they're out. And so there's all these elements, and what it boils down to is mindset, and that's what Larry Winget was kind of talking about, is finding the people with the mindset of quality. They take pride in every single thing that they do, whether it be driving a truck, making a burger, or picking up trash on the highway. It's all about the person wanting quality. So let's get to the comments. You guys are kind of really firing this up, and I appreciate every single one of you. Make sure you click the thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, click the bell, because I go live way too many times, so I can irritate you pretty good if you click the bell. So all right. Alexander, I've had a billion fury-induced purges in my life. Kind of wish I didn't have some of those. Alexander, I'm right with you. It's only a miracle that printer in my house is still alive. Only a miracle. Only a miracle. People who succeed don't cry about their failures. They keep moving, and it really doesn't faze them when others find out they call it a failure. There you go. Dave says Larry Winget. I just discovered Larry Winget, so I need to. I know his YouTube is kind of like so I got to see if he's got some books or podcasts. Good morning, DIY. My guys are aware of my expectations. If they consistently fall short, I let them go. So that comes with the other thing. Do you want quality? So you have to find quality, and you expect quality, and that's a good quality to have, but that will definitely limit your numbers and your chance for growth. I'm enjoying my new job, says Big Houston. Well, it's new Houston, give it a minute, says LOL, says James Bass. Well, I gotta go deal with my truck again, Daniel. Good luck. Well, I've been lucky so far. I could have been burned, but just got lucky. I got to go to work. Good stuff, Steve. Later, Daniel. Later. Everybody's saying later, everybody that's leaving. Jeremy Rice. Good morning. I support my guys with everything I've got, says DIY, and they tell me all the time they appreciate it. I talked to Provost one time, and he said that if he ever brought on contractors, he wouldn't let them fail. Failure's not an option. He will give his last dollar to make sure that his guys would succeed. And I really, and so sometimes we deal with hardships, and if you don't want drivers to leave, and that they add value to your company, they add quality to your company, you're going to want to do everything that you can to keep them from leaving. And that's just it. When the tides return and there's more drivers than jobs, these companies will drop you in the drop of a hat. They see you failing, they'll be like, well, sucks to be you, I'm out, because you're not going to make me any money anymore. And to me, that now I'm old school when it comes to values. Like you hear rare stories of the like I remember reading a story about a factory owner that was calling it a day. And so when he sold the company, he took enough for himself, and then he gave each of the factory workers a piece of the sale because he felt that he failed them. And it's harder and harder to find people like that. And even on Shark Tank, you hear about these companies that their goal is to sell the company, in a couple of years, make their million and leave. Well, what does that do to your employees? Especially if it goes to a company that that I lost my train of thought for a second. Squirrel. That. Well, you know what I'm saying. So, Jonathan Wheeler, morning. Either make them dependent on you or dependent on themselves. Jeff made us self-dependent. I got boned this weekend by Schneider, not happy about it, says Chucky. That's right, OTJB. The contractor should be able to run their business and not rely on the carrier to run it for them. My thoughts. Yeah, and we are better for it, James Best. And Bee's Knees, I agree with you. There's a problem though, because I know a person that's got contractors on. I don't think he's in this chat, but his guys call him all the time over little stuff. And there's a balance there. So if you want there's, how can I put this right without sounding like an idiot more than I always do? You want a carrier that has your back if you're dealing with detention or layover, or the broker not paying, or the broker gave you the wrong information. You want that, but you don't want to have to call them for every little tiny thing. Right? And so there has to be a certain sense, there has to be a sense of independence that's a part of that. And so how do you find the difference between micromanaging and having too much freedom? Because there's a lot of people that can't handle freedom because they've been so conditioned to be told what and when and how, where to jump, right? And so finding that middle ground is the challenge, and it all comes to mindset. You know what? I'm going to deal with this broker myself, but if I'm going a month without this broker paying attention, I'm gonna see if Jeff will get involved, and he will, and that's one of the advantages of a factory company. If for those of you who factor or don't factor or whatever, so. Thank you, Spooby. You love my hat? Marty, it is a lovely day. Rather have 5 strong than 20 weak. There it is. James Best just said it. It's quality over quantity. That is it. If you have 5 guys that make you money, they don't fluctuate, they don't change, they give you quality work every single time. And Big Rick C and I were just talking about this the other day. That to me is worth more than a constant revolving door of 20 drivers. Because when your company has a revolving door, then word of mouth gets out, and then and people don't differentiate between mindset and that people were actually unhappy when they left, and they don't differentiate between that. We have, I think, a total of 6 or 7 drivers that have gone on to their own authority here, so the truth of that is that some drivers will take advantage of your kindness. That's true, Eddie. Again, it goes back to mindset. Candyman says start over. Good morning, Nevada. What's up? Squirrel. James Best says I won't let a guy go because of money. It's about safety and doing it right. Morning, folks, says Twitch. PSA, Cali sucks, heading back east. Nothing wrong with shaping. I'll agree with you, by the way, Twitch, 110%. Nothing wrong with shaping and mentoring a contractor, and I agree with you. The middle ground is the hard part. Bees knees, thank you. OTR David, when you take on the responsibility of employees, you must understand that you are taking on the responsibility to make sure they make enough to feed their family. Huge deal. No one should take it lightly. That is true, OTR David. And that's the problem that Dana Ladami ran into, was his carrier was not paying him correctly in a timely fashion. And so they were taking advantage of the fact that they had his money, and that who cares if you can't feed yourself? Who cares if you got COVID and you can't, So either they have issues or they have a bad moral compass. And either way, you don't want to work for that. So, all right, Scott. Christian Trucker, good morning. I was just talking about you. Good stuff. Don't worry. Starling vocal man. Dave, you're funny. So finding that middle ground. How do you find that middle ground? It's mindset, and you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna bring on drivers that may or may not, make the grade, right? And so there's a learning curve there. You find what's right, and sometimes it could just be a personality conflict, you might have a driver that never really wants to talk to you, but does well, and you never have to worry about them. And that's a good element to have too. They don't have to like you personally. It helps. But sometimes a friendship can distort a business relationship as well, as we've seen in this YouTube universe over and over and over, is that sometimes friends don't make the best business partners. Sometimes friends don't make the best, I'll work under you, I'll work for you kind of situation. So I definitely prefer having employees, but be aware there are a lot of hidden expenses. Yep. A bunch of people in fancy tech or nothing have said people are impotent and unmotivated, and you have to and have no understanding and passion with the task at hand. That's true, Alexander. And what are the driver's needs, right? My needs are not that great, right? My needs are pretty low. So I'm not, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I'm not Jeff's most grossing contractor. I think there's part of the YouTube circle that actually makes fun of me for the fact that I tend to be home a lot. And a lot of it's the way I run. A lot of it's truck breakdown. I was down in January because of a truck, and we're already on track for 20 grand this year for truck expenses, by the way. Good having a paid off truck, huh? So you're the best, bro. I trust you with my trucking secrets. We recommend driving 666 miles a day. James Best ain't too bad either. Says Christian Trucker. Anyways, so these are just some thoughts because I know people that are struggling. I think we've only got 1 or 2 spots left, but I know other other companies that are struggling to find contractors. And this was a discussion I was having with Scott, SRO Logistics, who's looking for drivers, for contractors. And then throw the equipment thing in there as well. Trailers, truck costs right now. If you want to enter this game, it's going to cost you a little bit more. I believe that discussion was going on in one of Eric's live feeds, where they were like Nevada was talking about buying a truck and how much more he would have to pay. But if that's what it takes to get in the game, as long as you don't put your costs too high to keep you from running in any market, you want to keep your costs below $1.50 a mile. That's the gist of it. And you want a mindset of the mindset of every single, load is not the be all end all. If you look at my per mile averages, you would think that I'm living rich, right? But because I run so little, I need that profit margin to make it work, right? And by running little, I run primarily regional, 4 or 5 state area, and that's about it. 200, 300-mile runs. I think my average is 250-mile runs. I think that's what Trucking Office said my average was. It's a little off because the mileage on Trucking Office isn't as accurate as my, odometer to odometer mileage that I was keeping track with Trucking Pro. But the reality is I don't do the 800-mile-a-day stuff. I'm not a 700-mile-a-day guy. Every now and then I'll flirt with some 580-mile, 600-mile-a-day runs. But that's by design. It's easier on me. It's easier on the truck. Now, if I had to haul balls and put in some 10,000-mile months, I could. I have that ability. I have the knowledge. But at the same time, there are a lot of other needs that I have that have to be fulfilled as well. And trucking is a balance. If you think of it as a curse, it will be a curse. If you think of it as a blessing, it will be a blessing. That goes with anything in life. Like James Best mentioned about anger. Anger can be a positive thing. Well, if you view certain types of anger in a certain way, they can be positive. They can be motivators. They can be change makers. So, there's that. Thinking of relocating to Texas. They are way more small business friendly. Problem is, you may be able to succeed right now with those high costs. Reality will strike you down. That's true. That is absolutely true. You have to have the revenue to pay for breakdowns, not just pay bills. Right. You will sink. And that's something I almost learned the hard way. My first year in the spot market. By having meat on the bone, that's important. So if you're having to run 10,000 miles a week, or a month, not a week, a month, or 12,000, and if you suddenly have a 10,000 mile month and you're not going to make expenses, that's a problem. Whereas if you could survive off 5,000 miles a week, the cat just knocked over the phone. All right, we're gonna let the cat in. Look at this bastard knocking over the phone. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Some people cut it close. It's kind of like if the bank says, hey, you know what? According to our income, you can go out and buy a $200,000 house. But in reality, you should get a $150,000 house. You gotta have some meat on the bone for when, not if, but when things go bad. So. James, I'd like to see you share what you think guys should do and take a step back from the doom and gloom. Let's see. Christian Trucker says trucking is good. Trucking is and always been feast or famine. Saving good times, preparing for bad times. Right, even as a company driver, I told, the wife and I sat down and said, okay, as long as I'm making an average, not every week, but an average of, I think it was 1,800 miles a week, we were good. And so that's what I presented to my company. I said, hey, as long as I consistently make 1,800 miles a week, we're good. And you would have a week where I would need a 34 and I'd have a 3,800 mile week. Then I'd have a 1,500 mile week the next week. But that still averaged out okay. It's the same thing with running a trucking business. If you can consistently profit off $1.50 mile, you're golden. But if you have to make $1,000 a day, 25 days a month, every single month, without fail, you're going to have problems because there's always going to be a truck breakdown, or there's going to be a weather event, or there's going to be a home event. You know, if you have a death in the family, you're going to like just go home. You know, if your spouse dies, or if your one of your parents die, or one of your kids die, are you just going to go home for 3 days? You know, it's going to put you out of business because you're going to be gone. You're going to be home for a month or a couple of months if you can even get back in the truck at all. So you have to prepare for these things. So again, it's middle ground. You don't want to be all like, everything is fine, but you don't want to be all doom and gloom either. You know, I've been accused of being doom and gloom. I'm a realist, right? I know that if crap ever hits the fan, and I've had crap hit the fan. I was home for a month because of the polar vortex. I was home for a month because of family situations. I've been home for a month because my own dumbass fell and you know, splintered my leg a little bit, and you know, and every single time I was like, fine, you know, and because of the plans and the things that we have in place, you know, and there has to be a middle ground, right? It's Morris. He thought I, you know, cat tells you what to do, it does. Okay, so let's go with this discussion here. This is a really, you guys like this discussion? Hit the thumbs up. I've only had 2 thumbs up since I've been talking. Lame. Nevada says, I get your point. Why not tell guys coming in how to succeed, what they should be doing? That's my point. And then James Best says, falls on deaf ears, Nevada. They don't want to hear the truth. That goes back to what I've been saying about mindset. There are plenty of people that I've given advice to that don't take it, and then they wonder why they struggle. Not that my advice is be all end all, but I try to give advice from the mindset standpoint. You know, keep your costs low. Have a platform that allows you to be independent and make money, and have quality. You know, I know that there was a discussion about swinging for the fences every time you talk to a broker. Well, when during the vid world, the brokers were swinging for the fences. Every time that they try to lowball you at $1 a mile, that's them swinging for the fences. So you got two sides that are constantly swinging for the fences. And my viewpoint is, what about the middle ground? And that was a good discussion that Big Rig CEO and I had today about if the lane average on a run is 1,800, okay? And everybody's asking for 22. And this is a run that you like to do a lot. And this is something I run into a lot with the stuff that I run. If you're constantly wanting 21, 22 above the lane average every single time, that broker, you are low on that list. If that broker is only bringing, getting 23, you're the last person he wants to give that load to. Okay? So if you do it for 19 or 18, around the lane average, that still gives you about $3 a mile on that particular lane. Guess what? In order to have their profit margin, you're going to get the first phone call. Now, then on the opposite spectrum, you might have a broker that's getting 23. He doesn't want to let it move for more than 1,500, even though the lane average is 18. So it happens on both sides. And meeting in the middle is so hard. It's so hard for our society. You know, that there are arguments on both sides of the country and both sides of the coin that are valid, but no one can meet in the middle. No one can agree to disagree. No one, you know, it's either one extreme or another. And that's what makes the spot market so volatile. You know, think about it. If you work for a company, let's say you're a company driver and you work for a company that 1 month they gave you 10,000 miles. And then the next month they give you 1,000 miles. And then the next month they give you 12,000 miles. And then the following month they give you 2,000 miles. There's no consistency in that. So how would you be able to build anything without without consistency? And that's the thing. You know, when the market dropped, I stayed in my same lanes, running stuff for about the same that I do. I mean, yeah, it's been gangbusters here lately, but I have a bigger window of what consistent is. You know, there were some lanes that were paying 700. They got down to 600 during vid world, but then when it was gangbusters, I was getting 15 for it. But I found myself getting those loads better if I stayed at around 1,000, which was more than enough for what I needed. It's about consistency. It's not about being the broker's friend. It's not about, you know, to me, and this is where I differ with a lot of guys. To me, it's about consistency. Why did I go from Landstar to Snyder? It was because of consistency. You know, I got tired of the agents doing what they do and the inconsistency of their freight, the inconsistency of their load board, where Snyder was dead on every single time. Every now and then I would have to change it up a little bit, but not by much. So at Landstar, I created some consistency by staying in a niche like, you know, hazmat or something like that. And that's the thing. You find a niche, you find what works for you, and you stay in it. You dwell in it. You know, you don't have to swing for the fences every time. You know, and I know two drivers that have their own authority that run completely different. And the guy that's all about consistency and not swinging for the fences outgrosses and outnets the person every single time. Every single time. With less stress. That's the other element. Oh yeah, 1408 down the drain for a good cause. That's what I'm paying for my plates. Daniel, that's cheap. Mine's always about 1900. Quit your crying. Managing your home life with your professional life and making sure you stay healthy is everyone's struggle. Absolutely, Red Pepper. I agree with you. Possibly, but I want to know, says Nevada, I want to know, you're the guy who's years ahead of me. If you, Inspector, wouldn't be bringing up the topic market reality, who knows if it even crossed my mind. So thanks for that. Who gave me a cash app? Nevada, thank you very much. I won't read that out loud. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Get as much freedom in your running options as possible. I'm going to talk about Christian Truck here in a minute after I finish reading these comments. You're at a Mickey Mouse company? I mean, why didn't you buy a 48-foot trailer instead of the 53? I still see owner-operators pulling 48s. 53 is kind of the standard. I mean, I can count on one hand how many times that wasn't in the rate con about needing a 53. Now, 20 years ago, it was more common. Direct shipper with a set rate saved my rump. Now I have OTR truck is saving my rump. Okay, so let's talk about Christian Trucker for a minute. That guy has it going on. Okay? Probably going to make a couple of people angry here. But that's what we YouTubers do, right? All right, so Christian Trucker had a plan. He was at Schneider, you know, an operator with like $100 in his pocket, one of those deals, right? But he did well. And so he wanted to start working hauling freight for a company that he was familiar with locally, but he had to be in the spot market. So he joined Advanced, did very well, and acquired this customer. Now, this was back in 2018 when everybody came in at the peak and people were starting to lose their businesses as rates went down towards 2019. Okay. So he was making less per mile per day than what everybody else was going gangbusters in 2018 in on the rate. But he held fast and he held true to the point that his customer was so impressed that they gave him a raise in 2019 when everybody else was, their rates were being slashed. That's how you handle direct customers. That's how you handle. You need to come in when it's high, take the little bit of loss from the gangbusters that's going on the spot market because you're solving the problem of high shipping costs. Eric's talked about this. Pretty soon he built a foundation where he has a company driver himself. Now, he's had to pivot a little bit because of the vid world. And so what did he do? Now he's diversified by adding another driver, another truck to the spot market. So he's getting the best of both worlds. And his truck has enough flexibility that he can go TR if he needs to, or he can run the company stuff if he needs to. That's diversification. And this is a person that was told he didn't have his act together because he couldn't get his plate in the beginning for himself. So let that be a lesson to you. So too many people judge, well, if you can't get your own plate and your own trailer, you don't have your act together. That is not true at all. So Christian Trucker, I applaud you. I applaud you, sir. You know, and Christian Trucker and I have become pretty good friends. We talk about other stuff, not just trucking. And you know, he has his own authority, you know, and that's what he did. You know, once he saw the limitations that Advance put on hiring other drivers for his trucks, that's when he got his own authority. So, you know, it's dedication and quality that he adds. Now, has he had some struggles? Absolutely. And he doesn't hide anything. He puts it all on his YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe to Christian Trucker there. And he chronicled when he first started at Schneider, he first started his YouTube channel, he put out his complete numbers with an SFI truck, mind you. Every single number he put out at the end of the week. And it was something I look forward to, seeing his numbers and seeing how he handled it. He even got the whiteboard out that everybody makes a big deal of whiteboards, and you know, and put the numbers out. But yet he was told he didn't have his act together because he didn't have his own plate and his own trailer in the beginning. This is a guy that was very smart, and any carrier would have been great to have him, but he had other ambitions and got his own authority, and now he's kicking butt and taking names. He does still have hurdles, but you know what? He deals with them, and he's got an extra amount of faith that helps him out. So kudos to you, sir. James Best says, real world numbers. I averaged 4K weekly in 2018, 3K in 2019. That's reality, not 6 to 8 weekly. Which is what everybody came out thinking, or that was the exception, not the norm. So you feeding chocolate donuts to the birds? Awesome. I'd rather have the truth straight up than all the smoke and mirrors. What's the point of wasting time with things that aren't the truth? Be all in and never quit, brother. Thank you. Subscribe to Christian Trucker. Good deal. Nevada, I think you'll enjoy his channel. Go back to his Snyder days. I mean, you know, look, I've surrounded myself with a great circle of people. You know, Jeffrey Light, Scott SRO, Big Rig CEO, Christian Trucker. These are people doing things that I would like to do. and we have a, that was the early days of light trucking. We surrounded ourselves with each other and we support each other, like James and Harold and everybody, and we try to help each other, and because we all fall victim to our own devices. We all do. We all let emotion, we all overreact on things. We all, have, it's all on how you react, and human emotions, human nature kicks in. You got too much freedom, you become lazy, and that's been a problem with me, and every day I fight that a little bit, and so sometimes you need a little bit of anger. Sometimes you need to fall down a little bit to get back up and get back to where you used to be, get back on track. Because again, it's about consistency. That's what you need. And and so whether you're a company or owner op, or you have your own authority, it's about consistency and quality. It's about mindset. So, awesome. I try to get at least one vid a week and put things in playlist. All successful dudes come from Schneider, just saying. What's up with Gear Garber? Is he still driving? I have no idea. I think he is. Little birdie told me that he's still out there driving, but beyond that, I don't know. He's kind of disappeared from the YouTube world. Without Schneider, it would have been next to impossible for me to make a start with my particular situation. There you go. Diceman going live. What's up? And while I'm thinking of it, Advanced Trucking gave Christian Trucker that opportunity that wasn't given by other companies, and look what he's made with that. And and he did not leave them because he was upset at them. He left them because he needed to do more, and he needed to be on his own to do that. So Advance is another good company that I recommend. So just saying. There's a few people. Eddie's hiring, I think. Scott SRO Logistics is hiring. I think we've got 1 or 2 spots left. Advance, they just put up a Facebook ad. Shadow Wolf, what's up? Shadow Wolf is in the house. I saw this weird thing. I saw a notification from Shadow Wolf. I was shocked and amazed. And there he is in his new truck, his little puppy dog, saying he's going to make some videos again. We need some good YouTubers like Shadow Wolf back in our world, right? Advanced and I are still in great terms. I talk with Daniel weekly. I definitely recommend them. James Best says he's got 3 spots, but can't be a shit. Are you at? Did you lose somebody already? You got 3 spots, so James Best is looking. So. Here's the reality. You surround yourself with good people and you have a good mindset. You have to throw ego, arrogance, and greed out the window. Let me say that again, because I think that a lot of people forget this. You have to leave ego, arrogance, and greed at the doorstep, because then you get quality people that gives you consistency, and that consistency is what makes you successful. That's it. That's if there's one sentence that summarizes everything I've talked about today, that's it. So, that being said, you guys want to raise some questions, do them here. I don't want to do a 2-hour feed, but if we get in a good discussion, let's go. James Best would like to be at 5 by the end of the year. Red Pepper, I'm just happy to see you here, man. I know it sucks not being able to drive. From what you're seeing, there's a huge driver shortage all across the board. Southern Rider. Yes and no. Eric made this point that when companies are spending too much on shipping, that's when the driver shortage comes up. If they had more drivers, then they could reduce costs. The problem is driver retention. That's it. If you're a small company, you have 100 drivers. You do what you can to keep those 100 drivers. So if you look at hiring statistics, it looks like there's a driver shortage. If you look at the shipping rates right now, you could say there's a driver shortage. But the reality is there are a few that go by the wayside because of lifestyle, because trucking is a lifestyle. There's a few that have to come off the road because of health or whatever. And guys, here is a reality too that you may not think about. Health is going to become a huge factor in driver retention. How many people do you guys know that have lost their CDL due to an illness or diabetes or obesity? How many people do you know that are on CPAPs now or refuse to be on a CPAP so they'll quit? Health is going to take a lot of drivers out. So there will be, in addition to the driver shortage, because of health. And the military is seeing an issue with finding recruits that are healthy enough to be recruits. And so in an industry that you cannot be in unless you've got some health, that's going to become an issue, and it's only going to get worse if people don't start looking at their health. You could be the best, most motivated truck driver, you could be the hardest worker, you could be the best businessman, but if you don't manage your health, it will still take you out. That's how important health is. So when it comes to driver shortages, I look beyond the box. I look at mindset and I look at health. Those are the two things that keep people in the truck and keep working for you or work with you. So there you go. Prime is looking for drivers, but not from a couple of states though. Thanks for saying, Snorelord. Yes, I'm starting back up. Different style of content this time. Good deal. I like to do my part and get that number down to at least 2 OTV. Going to renew my physical today. Same company, 3+ years, guaranteed pay and treated with respect. That's kept me happy. There you go. There you go. I worked for Transland out of Stratford, Missouri. I could have gone to other places and made more money per mile, but I loved how they treated me. I loved how the new CEO came in and really gave a crap about the drivers. And I became Big Rig CEO, and I became part of this drivers committee that our job was to address the concerns that drivers had by talking to them and being the voice of the many to the few. And I was always impressed with that. And if I ever had to go back company again, which I wouldn't, but if I ever had to, just to survive, I would be at their front door, front and center. The company I'm with has great retention in certain markets around the country. They're struggling to find quality drivers. They say that chicken fried steak with mashed potatoes are good at mom and pop truck stops. It is true. Is it true? Yeah, if that's your thing. The first time I ever had biscuits and gravy, it blew my mind. I was with my dad. We were at a truck stop. He goes, "We're going to have biscuits and gravy for breakfast." I'm like, "What? I thought you had cereal for breakfast. I thought you had to have sweetened cereal or pancakes or something like that." And he was like, No. And we had, and I loved it. I was like, "Wow, this is kind of cool. It's weird, but cool." And, if a company has around 100% overturn of drivers, that says a lot about the way they're preparing their drivers for the job, right? Sometimes it's just a lack of training sometimes the driver struggles and the carrier leaves them out to dry, with either training or, if you had quality trainers that had their act together training these drivers, that would definitely help the retention rate. If you had true good mentors, not just a guy that's going to use you for your second logbook, the kind of guy that's going to sleep while you do 500 miles a day. You don't. Transland did not let us as trainers team. I always had to be on duty. The most that we could do was 14-hour driving days. After that driver was done with his 11, I could take over the 3, and he would have to be on duty. So we would run out our clock every single week that I trained. We weren't allowed to be off duty or sleep or work while they were driving, and vice versa. So, that's how you train. How many times have you heard stories about trainers that wake up from the bunk with the truck smashed into something? Think about there's a famous video of a guy that overturns on the big mountain in California, I forget. And Doling. Is it Doling? Yeah. And the trainer was asleep in the bunk. Killed them both. Because the guy didn't know how to go down a mountain. So, training, but it's also the little things. It's also like, how do you handle truck stops? How do you handle, getting fuel? How do you handle not stressing yourself out by booking loads that deliver at, that deliver at 6 a.m. in the middle of, a big city that has no parking? How do you get away from that? How do you deal with that? And that's the thing, and when you got drivers that have had their CDL for a year training other drivers, you have blind leading the blind. And so that's also a big part of driver retention, is you have literally the worst training conditions that you've ever seen in this industry. I think everyone's experience is different at companies. Switch, for example, might be a way better company than Werner or Swift, maybe, if the terminal is in your town and they get you through the house a lot, probably. That there is a lot to that. What works for me may not work for you, kind of a situation. So you have to be able to differentiate when a company is mistreating you, or there's improper training, or it's just not a good fit for you. Just like Landstar Schneider. Schneider was a better fit for me for several reasons, and part of it was the freight that was in my area allowing me to run the way I wanted to run. Back when I was a trainer for one of the nation's largest food-grade tanker companies, I taught people that their first year will suck no matter what. Exactly, Southern Rider, I agree with you wholeheartedly. If you're new to this industry, and if you're like an aspiring CDL holder watching this video, just know that your first 2 years, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be like boot camp. It's going to be, a struggle, until you learn the lanes, until you learn everything, until you learn. So anyways, guys, this has been a good discussion. I hope you enjoyed it. Nevada, I appreciate the cash app. Charles Brandt, I appreciate the super chat. So guys, the bottom line is, summary, trucks should be done this weekend, and we'll be rolling by Tuesday. Knock on wood. Right? So with that being said, make sure you guys tune in to Pale Rider tonight. He usually does his Friday night feed. And then I don't know if I'll do a weekend live tonight, because I've gone live way too many times this week. And I really don't have much to talk about unless I pick a subject, and most subjects will be, I don't know, might be misconceived as something. So I appreciate everybody coming in here. Make sure you give me a thumbs up. Make sure you share this out. We'll leave this one up. And okay, all right, Christian Trucker, I will. And guys, be good to each other. Be safe. Just that's it. So, all right, guys. Later. Peace.